Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com with another episode of the Steelers Preview. Joining me, as always, the dynamic duo of Dave Shofield and Bryan Davis. Dave, how are you doing this Thursday evening?
I'm pretty happy out. It's pretty. We've had some nice weather around here, nice and warm enough, but not too warm. And the rain's held off, and it's just been a good time to be outside and stuff with the family. So I'm. It's a good time of year.
Absolutely. And Bryan, how are you doing?
If you could grade my mood, Jeff, I would just say Fonzie because I'm an A.
You can't beat that. So before we get into the news, which there is some Steeler news we want to talk about today, before we get into the preview of Justin Layne, we are at his pick in the third round, and we're doing those one a week until we get sick of it, and then we'll just do all of them together at the end. I do want to mention that we are giving away, we're doing another giveaway. So if you didn't listen to my show last night, I did talk about this towards the end of the show. I want to do it at the beginning of this show so that everyone gets a good chance to hear the details. We are giving away a brand spanking new Juju Smith-Schuster. Oh my gosh, Juju Smith-Schuster jersey, any size from, what is it, Dave? Small to triple X?
Yes, that's what we can actually get ordered in.
Small to triple X. And this could be for you. It could be a gift for a loved one. It doesn't matter. It's brand new. We're not going to China for it. No offense, Bryan. And we're going to make sure that it is legit. All right. Now, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have a week to prepare for this. We'd wanted to get our Twitter grow. We'll grow our Twitter space as well. And so you need to follow us on Twitter if you don't already, and that's at BT Steel Curtain. And what you're going to do is you are going to, because it's a Juju jersey, you're going to have to think of a touchdown celebration video that you think Juju would actually do, or maybe just one that you think is hilarious. And we are going to leave it up to the Twitter universe as to who gets the most likes as to who wins the jersey. So this isn't going to be a Bryan, Dave, and Jeff judging these, and somehow there's some type of conspiracy theory of, well, Bryan likes this person. No, it's not going to be that at all. Now, let's say on the outside chance that you actually get Juju Smith-Schuster to like your video. If you do, and if you want to tag Team Juju in it, that's fine. That's up to you. If you get him to like a video, then we are going to equate that to 1 million likes. Now, if he likes more than one, then we're obviously going to have to do the math. But that means if you can get his attention, it's his jersey. That's pretty freaking cool. So that's kind of what we're going to do. You have a week. Now, next week on the show, we're going to be announcing the Twitter hashtag that we're going to want you to use. It's going to be easier for us to search, but you're going to have to tag Behind the Steel Curtain at BT Steel Curtain and the hashtag that we give you next week when you post your video. Now, on Behind the Steel Curtain's Twitter page, we'll probably retweet a lot of these so that we get them out there, get more people to see them. And again, it is a free jersey. No strings attached. All you have to do is like us on Twitter, submit a video. That is it. Free jersey. You don't find that offer.
And you know why?
Why?
You know why there's no string attached? Because it's a really legit jersey.
Exactly. So I think this is a really cool giveaway. I think that, for me, we give away stuff. It's fun. I like to see when Bo won our first, the two tickets to the Heinz Field draft party, and he sent us photos of his parents that went. It was awesome to see their faces as they met Vance McDonald and got Rocky Blair's autograph, and they were on Heinz Field's turf. That's awesome. So we want to make one fan. I don't care how old you are. If you're 13 years old and you see this, you have a great idea and you want to, I don't know, go to school and involve your principal. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just using that as an example. That's fine. Be creative. You have a week to plan it. Now, Dave, did I forget anything?
Yeah, something we had mentioned. Just want to make sure is that we said that we highly encourage kids to be a part of the video, but we would really prefer, just for legal matters, that the person who enters the video on Twitter is 18 or older.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be the person in the video. Like, personally, if I was doing it, I would film my son and then I would tweet it. And then I know someone who's 16 might be like, oh man, my parents are lame. What am I supposed to do? Well, have them tweet it and then you retweet it. So that's how if they only have 3 followers and you have 400 and some, that would help. So that's one thing. Another thing, I definitely want to give a shout out to Isaac, who is in the live chat, who donated the jersey in the first place for us to do the giveaway. A lot of people in the live chat know that it was his donation. Well, you'll probably say, well, how can we do it any size? just as a disclaimer, and he okayed this. When the jersey came, it was the perfect size for my wife, and I needed a Mother's Day present, and she looked smoking hot in it. So Isaac gave me the okay to purchase the jersey from him in order to be able to order any size of whatever the winner has. Because if not, we would have been really limited just based on one size. Other than that, I think we're looking good. It's going to be a couple days that we'll give you a deadline next week of how long we'll let it run until we calculate the likes. I will say one thing, Jeff, that if someone gets banned from Twitter for harassing Juju, we're going to have to disqualify him.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good. I think that Juju.
I don't think.
Go ahead, Brian.
I don't think Juju's harassable. But here's my thing. I want to ask about this. What if Juju uses it?
That would be awesome.
In an actual celebration.
That would be tremendous, because that would be the highlight of Behind the Steel Curtain's history. So that would be
I know, yeah, that would be amazing. So they would, if that happens, we'd have to give them something extra. So I'm thinking tofurkey lessons from Jeff. How to cook your best tofurkey.
There you go. Hey, maybe he'll use it. I don't know. So there you have it. We'll give you more information next week. So start preparing for that giveaway if you want a free jersey. So let's get into the news. There's two stories that we really want to talk about. The first one is, it drove me nuts this morning because I saw this yesterday. The guys that run our Facebook feed do a tremendous job. They are always on top of all the players, their Instagram stories and stuff like that. And all of a sudden it started showing up that Ben Roethlisberger had some players down in Georgia. And I saw this and said, that's cool. He did it again, because he used to do it all the time. He took his offensive line down one year, took the receivers and running backs down another year, seemed to follow suit. And then you get Pro Football Talk and all these other websites saying, oh, it looks like Ben Roethlisberger, he did the recommendation of the media because he was being labeled as a bad teammate. And literally, I mean, I myself on the Behind the Steel Curtain Twitter feed quote tweeted that and said, this is nothing new. Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette did the same thing. And lo and behold, about an hour later, he updated the story, changed the headline, and made it very clear that this wasn't the first time that Ben Roethlisberger did it. But guys, when you saw that news, Brian, we'll go with you first. What were your thoughts, especially on how the media was handling him having his players down in Georgia?
Well, you know what? It all goes back to Antonio Brown doing the Ben's only had me to my house once. And so that fueled this entire fire for this just idiot fest for just throwing him under the bus, making him look like a bad teammate, because everybody needs a story and they completely threw him under. But I remember 10 years ago watching Ben take his entire offensive line on Monday Night Raw. And in the middle of the ring on the show. Yeah, I mean, and it was a lot of fun. And they actually ended up beating up a Cleveland fan, which was The Miz, who is a huge WWE superstar, but a huge Cleveland fan. So that made it even better. But, Ben, this isn't a reaction to anything. And let the haters hate in this situation. Let them go ahead and say that, this is just damage control because just to prove he's a good teammate. At this point, he's not proven anything. He's a 15-year vet. These guys go to bat for him. That offensive line does, but now he took the skill position players as well. This is great. And they follow him, and they'll be more cohesive as a team. So anything that Antonio Brown threw out, or even Le'Veon Bell threw out to go ahead and throw him under and make him look like a bad teammate, actually kind of backfired, because people came out and really said, no, this is nothing new. There was a lot of support for Ben, but it also makes Ben more cohesive with that team. He's bringing back that band of brothers type attitude that he had 10 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. And the big thing with Ben is, we talk about this all the time on the show, when he's pissed off, that's a better Ben Roethlisberger. When he has a chip on his shoulder or a monkey on his back, that cowboy's going to ride. So this just makes Ben better.
Yeah, and it was actually pretty crazy on Pro Football Talk. They actually linked an article that I wrote. It was actually a fan post, I believe, in 2015, or a fan shot. I'm sorry, and it was the video on that's probably the same boat or some similar boat. And there you saw Antonio Brown smiling ear to ear. Martavis Bryant was there. Le'Veon Bell was there, and Ben Roethlisberger was driving the boat like he was with James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster and Ryan Switzer recently. And they actually linked that was actually our highest hitting article today because of that, shockingly. So, Dave, what was your response when you saw not just what Ben Roethlisberger did, but also the media's reaction to it?
Yeah, I liked that they showed the old video, which, yes, you could tell it was the same boat. Um, and that it just goes to show that everyone's going to be looking for a story. They want to look for a story. They want to look for clickbait, for news, for all these things when it comes to has Ben a good teammate or everything else. It's just, and it just shows that Ben is just going to do Ben. He's going to talk when he wants to talk. He's going to not talk, which he's done an awful lot of that lately, which was great. And he's doing what he's doing. He hasn't changed what he's doing. He didn't step up any different, and he didn't not do it because of other things.
Yeah. So there you have that. And they're doing that because on the 21st, the team reports to OTAs. He's taking his guys out on the boat because it's really the last chance to do that before there's a 3-week OTA, then mini camp, and then they have that break in June, July, and then they go to training camp. Now, June, July is typically when guys get away. They go back to their hometowns. They go on vacations and stuff of that nature. So, hey, good on Roethlisberger for doing this. It's not new, though. So if you're a new Steeler fan and you saw all those reports by the national media, don't listen to them. They don't know what they're talking about. Now, the second story we want to talk about is our favorite running back, Le'Veon Bell, who just seems to always find his way into the headlines in some way, shape, or form. And lo and behold, in the New York Jets, the dumpster fire that is the New York Jets, they fired their general manager after the draft, after free agency. Adam Gase is the interim general manager and makes it known, I guess, sourced information. I used air quotes there for those listening on audio platforms, that he didn't want to sign Le'Veon Bell. He didn't want to put that much money into the running back position. Dave, when you heard this, and then Le'Veon Bell responds with, "I'm all positive. I'm going to do what I do, blah, blah, blah." Your reaction was what?
It completely destroyed his narrative of I want to go somewhere that I'm loved, because obviously he's not. I'm not sure. Did I misread the report, or did someone else misread the report that I heard from them that this Le'Veon Bell issue was the driving factor behind the GM being fired because of the disagreement with the head coach?
I heard it was he and the Mosley signing. It was
Gotcha.
those two additions that really were like the driving force, because they put a lot of money into two players.
And not only that, within how much time did they turn around and trade one of the former GM's first round draft picks from a few years ago
for a 6th-round pick?
Yes.
To the
So,
Chiefs. To the Chiefs.
Sickening.
That just kind of goes to show that they were definitely not on the same page. And when the report comes that the people that were on Le'Veon's page are the people that aren't there, boy, that's going to make for an awful long season where he actually ended up getting less money on a worse team. And now the people that are responsible for his playing didn't even want the signing.
Now,
Ouch.
I don't mean to interrupt, and Brian, you'll get a chance here in a second, but I think Adam Gase is an idiot, and I've thought he's an idiot going back to Miami. The way he handled Ryan Tannehill, I thought he was an idiot. Trading away players like Jay Ajayi comes to mind, when he just basically sent him to Philadelphia for a Philly cheesesteak and watched Jay Ajayi perform really well for the Eagles and win a Super Bowl. He has this "it's my way or the highway" type mentality, and he thinks that he's like the next Bill Belichick. He's not. He doesn't. Bill Belichick tolerates more than people think, and Gase just, I don't get it. You just parted away with a first-round draft pick for a guy that played. This isn't an Artie Burns situation, folks. This is a guy that played and played well, ships him off to Kansas City for a 6th-round pick. That's like a bag of peanuts. Brian, what were your thoughts about this whole situation?
Well, I thought you were pretty nice when you said idiot, because I was thinking more of when you get a pin and you stick it in your finger, what that's called. That's what I call Adam Gase. He has acted like that all along. He is one of those exactly what you said. I mean, he's my way or the highway. He's a hard ass type of guy. He's going to lay down the law. I'm the sheriff. You guys are just lucky to be here, and that just is not going to work. I'm going to love to see what the New York media does with him. I'm actually going to surprise a lot of people and give props to Le'Veon Bell for the way he is responding. And I know. I mean, I'm just going to say the fact that right now he's eating a lot of crow. He made a horrible deal. He gambled. He lost. And now he's just responding with, "Hey, I'm just here to win football games." He's not getting caught in the crossfire. He's not getting in a fight. Antonio Brown would have done something completely different. Antonio Brown would have went a full assault on Adam Gase. So Bell's gonna keep his mouth shut. Maybe he's getting better advice, or maybe that this was a big aha moment for him when he gambled and lost, because he's saying a lot of different things now.
The thing with me is he should have followed Ben Roethlisberger's script. Why say anything? What do you have to gain from saying anything about this report? Because that's exactly what it is. It's a report. We're talking about a report. Adam Gase didn't come out in a press conference and say, "Yeah, I never wanted that guy anyways." I just think that sometimes he and Antonio Brown, they can't help themselves. They literally can't. They can't get out of their own way. They're always having to say something. They're always having to put something out on social media. It might be a sign of the times in terms of their age and their age group and that type of thing. But ultimately, he should have just, in my opinion, just shut up. Now, he didn't say anything negative. I agree with you there, Bryan. But I think that ultimately, if he had just kept his mouth shut, it would have been a lot better for everyone involved. But hey, not our problem, Steeler fans. Not our problem. Have fun with that. Bye-bye. See you later. Let's go on to Stat Geek. Dave, you ready?
I am ready. I want to start off with something just a little bit different. I just saw Lance Williams in the live chat, and I know Bryan's a big trivia guy. I'm going to give Bryan an answer to a trivia question before it even happens. And if either one of you were team players and follow me on Twitter, you might already know this. So it was something I was looking up for Lance, where he asked me a question about coaches. And when I looked it up on Pro Football Reference, there are 494 NFL head coaches listed in the history of the NFL. So that means we are 6 coaches away from a 500th coach. Guess how many first-time coaches we have going into 2019? 6. So the question is, who is going to be the 500th coach in NFL history? And the answer will be, because of playing at the 10 p.m. game on Monday night, one for the Denver Broncos, one Vic Fangio will be the 500th head coach in the NFL history. So I don't know if Bryan's impressed by that or not.
Doesn't look like it.
I really am. I got to tell you, if I could go ahead and bend the knee right now, I would, because that's just amazing. I mean, I'm thinking of a very popular Styx song from the late 70s, early 80s. It would be your perfect theme song. It's called "Too Much Time on My Hands," and I think that should be your walk-up music. So next time when we do the Stat Geek section, we'll just play Styx from now on. Not Renegade, but "Too Much Time on My Hands."
And that's a classic. That's a good one. Sitting on a bar stool, talking like a, don't use that word. I got the 12 o'clock news blues. All right, here we go. We're going to do over under again this week because it's fun and it's short. I'm going to give you a number. I want you to tell me if it's over or under, and we're going to start off with the same number that we had last week. Oh, by the way, Bryan and I, although Bryan did mention it on the hangover, he didn't remember what I had said. We are both one correct so far, because not only did the Steelers have at least one free or tryout signing, they had 5. I've never seen the Steelers sign 5 tryout players from rookie minicamp. That was kind of crazy. So Brian and I 1, Jeff 0, just for the record. And you could tell that Jeff is so torn up about that. Here's your number. The number is 50. Over under for the Steelers defense, will they get 50 sacks this season? Just so you know, the stat is they had 52 in 2018.
What did they have in 17? They had more than that,
They
56.
had 56 in 17, 52 and 18.
56. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go.
And that was fueled by a 6-sack game.
Mhm.
Well, they had several of those against Cleveland in the past 2 years. We'll go with
in the finale.
right. Yeah, I'm going to go with over. I think this defense is getting better. I think the pass rush, TJ Watt's going to get better. I say over. What about you, Brian?
I'm going over as well. Chickalo with 18.
I'm also going over. I was tempted to set the number higher, but then I thought 50 was just a good number. I don't think they're going to take a step back. I think if anything, doesn't mean they're going to make a massive jump forward, but I think they'll either at least match the last 2 years, if not go above that.
Now, if you said it, hold on. If you said Brian, if it was 54, what would you say?
I'd probably go under.
That's it. There you go. There was your number there, Dave. 54 would have been a good one.
I almost went with 55 in honor of Brian's jersey.
Yeah, his bush.
Yes.
Somebody say 55?
Show him your bush, Brian. There you go.
Get a load of my bush.
So question number 2. We're going to stick with the defensive side. The number is 8. Will the Steelers defense have more or less than 8 interceptions in 2019?
Interceptions or takeaways?
Interceptions. They had 8 interceptions last year.
They had 8 interceptions last year? No,
They
they
did.
didn't. No,
Yes, they did.
didn't.
Come on. Dupree had one. Vince Williams
Yeah,
had
but linebackers helped out.
Okay, all right, you're right. So now that I think about it, Vince Williams had the pick 6. Dupree had a pick 6. Terrell Edmonds had one. Hayden had a 2, I think. I'm trying to think who else did. Sean Davis have a pick last year?
What?
I know Watt had one in his
Edmonds
rookie year.
had
I don't know they
pick.
had one last
I know
year.
that.
Edmonds, I called that one. Okay, I'm going to say over. I'm going to say over because not only do I think the linebackers will continue to contribute, but I also think that Steven Nelson gets his hands on footballs more than any other defensive back they have. I like him a lot. He's a worker. I'm going to say over. What about you, Brian?
I hate to follow your lead, but yeah, I'm feeling the same thing. I think they're revamping that secondary, and they're going to have. I mean, the total was so low for the last couple of years. They've got to eclipse that, and I'm pretty sure that's what they're working on. So yes.
I'm going over as well. I'm making this too easy for you guys to start. But of course, we're all very optimistic going in, and we're thinking that the defense is moving in the right direction. So it makes sense that we went with those picks. So here we go. Speaking of picks, we're going to do from the other side of the ball. We're going to go interceptions. The number is 14, over or under for specifically not just offensive, but Ben Roethlisberger interceptions in 2019. He had 16 last year. So over or under, will we have over or under 14?
Under, because I'm pretty sure, and I don't have the stats in front of me, I'm pretty sure statistically he bounces back from a high interception season and has a relatively lower number the following year. I'm going to say under. Brian?
Not only that, he does not have to force the ball to one Antonio Brown to make him happy and keep him from destroying the sidelines and pouting and not showing up. So I really think it's going to be under. I think this is definitely a bounce back year for Ben Roethlisberger. He signed the contract, but I said it earlier in the show, when he has an axe to grind, he comes out like gangbusters, and I really think this is going to be an MVP type year for Ben.
What about you, David?
I'm going to go under as well, but for a little bit different reason. I'm hoping that he doesn't have to play all 16 games, which would help. Definitely. And I'm hoping it's for the good reasons and not bad reasons that would happen. I thought setting the number at 14 made that a little bit more difficult because
Absolutely.
I did have him stepping down a little bit. You have to realize 10 of his interceptions last year were at Antonio Brown.
Well,
the one of Josh Dobbs was also targeted with Antonio Brown.
let's
Now,
stop for a second. If they run the ball more, he's going to put the ball in the air less.
yes,
And
that's
so
also the
we
key
all
too.
hope that if they're a little bit more balanced next year, that he's not going to have to feel the need to carry the team on his back. And it's crazy, Brian, that you said it's a bounce back year, and I agree with you. He just put up 5,000 yards, you know?
Yeah, and I see that, but I'm talking about on the interception end.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get what you're saying.
Well, and honestly, I think this number is going to be really important for 2019 because if that number's going up, it doesn't necessarily mean that Ben is not playing well. Ben led the league in interceptions last year, but I wouldn't say that he wasn't playing well with all the yards that he threw.
Yeah.
The question is, are they having to play that style of game? Are they having to play from behind? Are they having to put the ball in the air more? If he's forced to into a lot of passing situations where it's easier for the defense to intercept the ball. So I think it's a key number, but I think it's going to be the result of what's going on with them during the season.
Well, let's
So
be honest too. I don't mind the interceptions. It's when he throws the picks. You think about those red zone turnovers he had last year. The two that come to mind was the game-winning interception for the Broncos in Denver. Also, at the end of the first half against Atlanta, when they were driving, were guaranteed points. It was a stupid throw. Those can't happen. If it's a 3rd and 10 and he goes deep to James Washington down the sideline, it gets picked off. It's like a punt. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
yes.
But when he has the red zone or deep in your own end, he's trying to make a play and he forces it. And those are the killers. Brian, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering, and you guys can help me out with this, the correlation between points per game and Ben's interceptions. If he's in a, like Dave kind of mentioned, if he's in a shootout situation and they're coming from behind, then he's thrown the ball so much more. But if they actually have less points per game, they can still win more games because they're controlling it on defense and they're not having to score as much on offense. And you've got if you have more of a run control offense, like you mentioned, Jeff, then he's not going to have to put it up. So if they have slightly less as far as the points go, it doesn't mean that it's going to be a rough offensive year, because we look at this offense, especially with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, we looked at the offense and said, they should be putting up 35 points a game. And they should be doing that, but they almost had to put up so many points per game because they were watching their defense get stomped on. So with that being said, if they're putting up 25 points a game, they still could be winning a lot of games if everything else is in order.
Sounds like an article idea, Dave.
That is exactly what I was just thinking. Breaking down basically his touchdowns from last year and the situation, almost like grading them, if you know what I mean. Or that's something I'm thinking that we could maybe do in a future Stat Geek.
All right.
Not all 16 of them.
I expect the credit.
Yeah.
You will. He'll give it to you.
So not, like I said, we would not look at all 16 in one episode. We're not doing that like the draft day trades again. I got 2 questions left. Here's a number. 6, which is the identical number from last year. 6 games in which the Steelers had a 100-yard rusher, not 100 yards rushing, one player who went over 100 yards. Will they be over or under that number in 2019?
I think it's over, because even if James Conner goes down, I think it's Benny Snell football can carry the load. Jalen Samuels proven his worth. We're going to talk about him in a second. I definitely think it's over, and this offensive line should be the linchpin for this offense. Let them go forward. Let them grind out those yards. That's what I want this offense to look like. What do you say, Brian?
Oh, I concur completely. I mean, this is going to be a better offense rushing wise, not ranked as low as it has been, because they're not relying on one guy. They're a lot more versatile. They can do so many more things. Hey, James Conner is still going to be your number one guy, but you don't have to run the wheels off of him and really hurt yourself down the stretch like they did last year, because when he went out in that Los Angeles game, they lost a few more games. So that was a killer for him, and I think they're finally learning from that, and they have the personnel that they don't have to just run the wheels off a guy.
I am tired of us all agreeing, so I'm going to buck the trend, and I'm going to say under. And the reason I'm going to say under is I think there's going to be a lot of games where the Steelers are going to rush for more than 150 yards, but they might not have a 100-yard rusher, because it might be Benny Snell coming in and taking 8 carries and getting, 45 or 50 yards, and Jalen Samuels coming in and getting 4 carries for another 30 some yards, and James Conner ended up with 80 or 90 yards. That would not shock me one bit, that there's going to have a lot of games where they have great rushing yards, but not necessarily one player hitting 100. I would like to see that. Not as much from like a fantasy sports standpoint or on FanDuel, that won't help as much. But just to go against you guys, I'm going to say the under for that reason. Last question. It's not a number, it's not a stat, but I really want to know your guys' thoughts here to see how it all works out. Week 1 of 2019, the Steelers starting right tackle will be
Matt Filer. Bryan?
Matt Filer. I don't think Chooks is ready.
I am going to, just to be a jerk, go against you guys, and I'm going to say Chooks. I don't think he was that far behind Filer last year. And I mean, he played all right in Denver. They gave him a lot of help, but they also gave Filer a lot of help in other times. And I want to see that typical rookie to second year big jump. And I want to see if that's a big enough jump to put him into the starting lineup. I don't know that he'll hold the job all year, but I wouldn't be surprised if they went with him. So I'm going to say Chooks, and that's our stat geek for tonight.
I could absolutely see Chooks winning that. I wouldn't be shocked in the least, because if he's everything that they said, and I said this in my show last night, the Steelers Burning Question, if you haven't listened to that, go back and check it out. It's on YouTube and on our audio platforms. I mentioned how this was the last offensive lineman drafted by Mike Munchak before he left, and they took him in the 3rd round. Everyone was saying if he would have played in Alabama or an SEC school, he would have been a 1st-round pick. He's raw, but if Sean Surratt is actually, half the coach at Munchak is, he might be on his way. Filer does have his limitations, so to speak. So we'll see how that goes. Now, getting bent with Bo, who's in our live chat right now. Bo won the contest, our first contest. He had sent a response to my show last night. He didn't get to see it live. He wanted us to talk about Jalen Samuels. The question is simple, and this is before we open up our questions to the live chat. In which, by the way, because we have over 100 people in the live chat right now, if you want your question answered and you don't want us to have to sift through all the questions, use the super chat feature. Okay, right next to where it says chat publicly, there's a little money symbol. You can donate any amount of money. We've had people donate $1, $2, $5, and that money goes straight to us, by the way, but it also highlights your question. And I've always said my standard protocol is any question that uses a super chat will be answered, as long as it's about the Steelers. So keep that in mind. You don't have to use it, but it's there if you want. So we'll start off with Bo's question about Jalen Samuels. Guys, the question is essentially, how do you see his role expanding this year? I think last year the playbook for him was very limited. Do you think he will turn into the ultimate Swiss Army knife, which that's how Mike Tomlin always used. He used that adjective, that label to people like Mohamed Sanu, who could do so much. Do you see them using him as more of a traditional running back or like H-back, tight end, wide receiver, flanker? What are your thoughts? Bryan, we'll go with you first. How do you see Jalen Samuels' role this year in 2019?
I would love to see the Swiss Army knife, but I'm thinking that he is going to be more of a Verron Haynes type 3rd down specialist with some spot duty and spelling at times, but with Benny Snell Jr. in there, he's not going to be featured as much because you're going to want to get everybody in there. But if they go back to the 3rd down situation where they possibly could, if they're going to save some of these guys, save some carries, then that might be a good spot for him.
What about you, Dave?
I think he is going to be their master of disguise. I think they're going to use him to, when they don't want him to know what's going to happen, where are they going to line him up to run him? Or are they going to split him out to throw? Are they going 5 wide? Are they going to bring him in with Roosevelt Nix and 3 tight ends, but yet have a go shotgun empty backfield because he can go out there? I think he's the prime person to get him into the game to keep the defense off guard to where you can even shift your formation and run a different play based on how the defense comes out to respond. So I think he's the player you're going to use to say, hey, can we catch them in something and give them something that they're not expecting?
He's a mismatch nightmare is what he is. The only question, the only doubt I have about Bryan, you said Verron Haynes, is that Verron Haynes was a very good pass blocker, and they could trust him to pick up the blitz. That was not Jalen Samuels' forte as a rookie. He never had done it before. He's going to have to prove on that. So, Bo, there's your question answered. Now, we're not getting a lot of questions, and that's also a way for me to cover up the fact that I completely forgot the whole reason we're doing this show is to preview Justin Layne, the 3rd-round draft pick out of Michigan State. And we can talk about stats and numbers, and he's a former wide receiver converted to cornerback, and how his dad and his family grew up in Cleveland, and they went to St. Benedict, which is the same high school as one Mr. Chuck Knoll, and how his dad had a Browns bathroom and then painted into a Steelers bathroom. But my question is this, and this is where we're going to start off, and that is, I'm going to ask you guys, is this kid, and I want you to back up your answer, don't just give me yes or no crap, is this kid a legitimate talent, or is he just the next one in a long line of cornerbacks drafted by the Steelers that don't pan out for whatever reason? Dave, we'll start with you.
I think that he is a legitimate talent if they can bring him along at the proper pace, that they don't have to rush him out there onto the field in week 1 for a bunch of snaps and everything else. I think if everyone says they can't develop a corner, well, let's see if they really can. I don't think that's true. I think let's actually get him some time to develop. I have some good stats on him from college.
Well, let's hold those stats for a second. I want to get Bryan's answer to the question, then we'll come back.
He is so legitimate, and this is a guy that would have went to other teams in this spot. This was not a reach pick, guys. What I like about this guy, he has great route feel. I think he could be, and this, what I'm about to say here, could be a good thing, could be a great thing, and could be a bad thing too. He reminds me a lot of Ike Taylor. Maybe not the speed of Ike, but a very good cover guy with so-so hands. And when you're talking about the fact, the biggest thing you're looking at as a con with this guy is the fact that he'll go for a pass breakup so much more than he will for an interception. But he does have the hands to make an interception, unlike Ike, who I used to call hands of stone, even though I loved him a lot. This guy has the ability to make interceptions. I think it's a coaching thing. So when Dave said if they bring him around along the right way, they could do very well with Justin Layne. I think he's the real deal. I think he's a future starter on this team.
Okay. I guess to me, this is a 3rd-round draft pick and a second 3rd-round draft pick. So it wasn't even like, Deontay Johnson, who we covered last week. If you missed that one, go back and check it out on YouTube and audio platforms. But I guess they failed, at least to this point, with Artie Burns, and he was a 1st-round pick. Reach or not, most people said Artie Burns was a 2nd-round talent that they took in the 1st round. I guess I just don't necessarily see where we can, or I can, just put my faith in the fact that the Steelers can get this job done. I mean, we've seen other cornerbacks come in here and they're labeled as athletic, good with their, good ball skills, long, and it just doesn't work out. And so I hope people understand my reservation here when it comes to this player and this position. It's not him. It's more just the fact of the system, and I'm not sure if the system is built. It's a little bit different now. Carnell Lake's gone. Coach Austin, is it Austin? is the guy that they picked up that's going to be helping with the secondary. Dave Terrence, is that Terrence Austin? Yeah. So he's going to be in there. We'll see what happens. I have my fingers crossed because you figure they're due to hit one sooner or later. They have to. But at the same time, I have reservations. So, Dave, you have some stats for us. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's Terrell Austin, by the way.
Terrence.
Yes.
Okay, my apologies, Coach Austin.
Oh no! What I decided to do was compare his last year of college stats. As you guys have, if you've watched the last few weeks, you see that's kind of what I try to do. I went back to the last 3 corners that the Steelers have drafted in the first 3 rounds. So Artie Burns, Cam Sutton, and Senquez Golson. Even to throw that one in there.
Bryan's boy.
Yeah. So the thing about
it's a theory.
the thing about Layne is that he only had 1 interception last year. He never had more than 1 interception in a year. So Bryan is spot on with what he said, because I'm going to back up even more what Bryan said. Yes, he only had 1 interception. But you know what? Cam Sutton only had 1 interception his senior year. Because remember, Layne and Burns were both juniors. Sutton and Golson were both seniors after they came out. But that's also why Cam Sutton was a 3rd-round pick. This might also be why Justin Layne is a 3rd-round pick. But here's some of the crazy numbers. Justin Layne had 15 pass defense last year. 15. That's a lot. Okay. Artie Burns had 5 his last year of college. Cam Sutton had 4. He did have 13 as a sophomore, which is what stood out with a lot of people with Sutton. And Golson only had 7. Now, Golson had 10 interceptions. That was his big thing. That's why the Steelers drafted him in the 2nd round, and there was so much hype about him because of how he was such a ball hawk and always pulled the ball down. Well, that didn't happen. So Bryan was spot on with the whole thing that he gets to the pass, he just doesn't always catch it. But being a former wide receiver, you've got to realize that he can catch it. It's just it might be a coaching issue. But the thing that I think I might love the most. Oh, and by the way, he was tied for 8th in the NCAA last year with his pass defenses with 15. So that's up there. He had 72 tackles. 44 solo tackles, 72 tackles. He had more solo
72 tackles.
72 tackles. He had more solo tackles than either Burns, Sutton, or Golson had total tackles their last year in college. He was one of 4 players. I just stumbled across this on my own. I just looked up these stats. No one else said it. I just said, I'm going to put in these criteria, see what I get. 4 players last year in Division I college football who had over 70 tackles, 1 interception, and 10 pass defenses. There was only 4 players in all of NCAA, and he was one of them. The other one was this one sophomore from Alabama. I can't remember his name, so obviously he's not even drafted. So the numbers say that he should have been drafted higher than where he was, perhaps. When I look at the stats, I get excited about them. So
yeah. Well, and you can't necessarily – college success doesn't necessarily lead to NFL success, but at the same time, 70-plus tackles shows a willingness to get to the line of scrimmage and make a tackle. You're not necessarily – and Michigan State wasn't awful last year, so it wasn't like he was being targeted a bunch, a la what everyone said about Steven Nelson when he was picked up. He was the most targeted cornerback. Well, Kansas City's defense was awful last year, so take that with a grain of salt. But, Bryan, my question for you here, you're a big Justin Layne guy. You said they were going to pick him right before they pulled the trigger on the selection itself. Does he start this season at all? Let's say that everyone's healthy. It's not an injury situation where he's promoted because of that injury. Does he start in 2019?
If it's not an injury situation, probably not, because you're not going to sit Joe Hayden because he is your CB1. Yep. And you brought Kansas City's best, corner in, but then again, like you just said, with that defense, saying that he's their best player on defense is like saying that's the tallest midget on the basketball team. So with that being said, am I allowed to say midget, little person? Sorry. But anyways, I'm in a Game of Thrones thing right now. So, I mean, I dwarf. I'm sorry. But what I'm saying is I don't expect him to have to start. If there's an injury, yes. Now, the other thing you need to look at here, though, that makes this question pretty tough for me to answer is the fact that they might be putting him in as a slot corner, too. Mike Hilton has the possibility of getting reps at safety this year. They're looking at Sutton, Hilton, even Bryan Allen to take one of these guys and possibly move them. And if you saw my Fact or Fiction this week, you saw that that's something that is growing more and more steam and gaining more and more steam, and something that I think is actually going to happen. So Hilton might not be your slot corner this year. He might be more of a safety. That's a possibility. So he would start as a slot maybe, but if they're healthy, no.
Okay, what about you, Dave? What do you think? Uh-oh. Dave doesn't have any sound.
Dave does have sound. Dave muted himself when he thought he was unmuted. Sorry. If he starts this year, it's bad without an injury. It's bad news for the Steelers. Not bad news for Justin Layne, because that just means he's doing well. But it's bad news, which means somebody else is completely underperforming. That means the Nelson signing is not working out. That means there's a problem with Joe Hayden, which I don't see that happening. So the answer is no. Don't start this year if it's not an injury, because if he does, it's not good.
Okay.
He's not good. It's just not good for the team.
Yeah, and I personally want to make sure everyone knows that I'm a fan of the pick. What I've read and what I've seen of him is very, very positive. But I have my reservations about the Steelers drafting cornerbacks, and I know that we're just going to call it Bryan Senquez Golson theory is still hanging around there. But at the same time, I just can't get over the fact that they are awful at drafting cornerbacks. So we'll see. Hopefully he breaks the mold. Hopefully he breaks the mold and turns out to be the talented cornerback everyone wants him to be. But then again, I'm not necessarily expecting that to happen. So let's get to a couple questions before we finish it up with our either or, which is a very popular, wildly popular segment here on the show, where we basically just talk about whatever we want and just have some fun with it. We get this question all the time. Real simple, yes or no. Will Artie Burns make the team this year, Bryan?
I said yes before. I am saying no now. I do not think that they are expecting him to make the team, and I don't think they're going to waste time on him anymore.
Dave?
I think he could possibly make it initially, but he could be one of those guys that doesn't last the whole season, that they have that maybe they stick with him a little bit at the beginning, but if someone had to go on to the IR and they're bringing him back, or any kind of situation like that, or if they need to make a move because of an injury at another position, that he might be the guy that's cut loose. So the question is, does he make the team at the beginning, or is he still on the team at the end of the season? I'm not sure about the beginning, but I'm going to say no to him being on the 53-man roster at the end of the season.
I'm going to say no because I think he's going to get traded. So unless there's an injury at cornerback, I think that they try to trade him. They try to move him. But I don't think he's going to be on the roster in week 1. Got some questions rolling in now. What Ron asked about, he said, will Okorafor start at tackle? We both talked about that a little bit earlier. I said Matt Filer will start. Bryan agreed with me. Dave said Okorafor will start, so there you have that. Bo asked, do you think we use the media, the team will use the media negativity to their benefit, and will it get them back into the postseason using all this crap that's happened this offseason? Bryan, what do you think?
Peter King has them 3rd in the North. You don't think that they've noticed that? And you don't think their ears perked up a little bit and their eyes bulged a little bit more when they saw that? This is going to become a us against the world situation this year, and smart teams are able to sway that the right way. And I can see Ben being one of the guys that spearheads that entire thing. Nobody else believed in us, and we're still here. I could hear him saying that at the very end of the season.
Dave?
I'm sorry, I broke up for just a second and missed what what it was.
The question?
Yes.
It was well, let me find it again. I've started reading the next question now. What was it, Brian? It's filled in.
It's basically, are they going to use the media
Yes,
negativity
there
to
you
their
go.
advantage this year?
Yes,
So just
gotcha.
say I agree with
That's what
Brian.
it was. Oh, I completely agree with Brian. He's right. Yeah. That, I mean, anything that you can find to motivate yourself or anything, find any chip you can to get on your shoulder. It doesn't matter. It could be the most ridiculous thing that you can use as motivation, and they'll use it. So, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, real quick answers here, guys. All right, no need to extrapolate. Who will play more, Vince Williams or Mark Barron in 2019? Brian,
Vince Williams.
Dave.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Vince, but I think it's going to be close.
Wrong, Mark Barron. Okay, more or less sacks for TJ Watt this year? Will he have more or less than he had last year? He had double digit last year. What did he end up with? Was it 12?
13, I believe.
It was 12 or 13.
I believe it was 13.
Dave should know this.
More. Yep.
Oh, all right. What about you there, David?
I'm going to go less because I think he's going to be in coverage a lot. Teams are going to scheme around him. I think he might get so much more focus that it'll open up for others.
I'm going to say less. I think he's going to get double digits, but I just don't think he'll have as many. Hey, I hope I'm wrong. Steven asks, if Mason Rudolph doesn't take the backup job this year, will Dobbs be the permanent backup for the next few years? Brian.
No. That means they're giving up completely.
Okay, Dave?
I'll agree with Brian.
Okay, I think that, yeah, if he doesn't win it this year, then the Mason Rudolph, my hopes and dreams will be dashed. We'll put it that way. Snowman uses the live chat, the super chat feature, asks Brian, or I'm sorry, Dave, what jersey are you wearing? 97.
Cam Hayward. And no, it doesn't have the Steelers logo on it because in order to get it big enough, I had to get a knockoff.
Had to go to China.
It's actually not from China, but it is a knockoff.
And we did say earlier that Brian was showing his Bush, and that's because he actually has a Devin Bush jersey on. He got the 55 jersey already. So there you go. He's not a Joey Porter.
And
I can vouch for
it. No Porter with duct tape.
All right, now this is actually what I wanted to bring up at some point. Go ahead, Brian. Did you have something to say?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Felicia, who uses the super chat feature as well, thank you very much for that. They asked, how do you feel about the return of the throwback block jerseys? She said, I'm hoping they wear their color rush jerseys during the Patriots game. I doubt that's going to happen. It's rare they wear those on the road, but they are 4-0 in those color rush uniforms. My question, guys, is everyone wanted the block numbers. Everyone said we want the block numbers. We love the block numbers. We hate the italicized numbers. I hate them. When you look back at last year's Cleveland game when they wore those throwbacks, did you like them? Did you think it was a little off? Go ahead, Brian.
They were glorious. I love them. And I want these. I want to get rid of this jersey. I want block numbers. That's the Steelers I grew up with, 70s, 80s, and even 90s. And when they changed to match this one decision I don't like of Dan Rooney, when they changed to match the numbers on the front of the helmets, I was like, come on, don't do that. Go back to the block. Green Bay does it. Go back to the block.
What about you, Dave?
I like that they use the block numbers for the color rush. A lot of people forget that that's what they do. I like the block numbers as a throwback. It's nice. I almost wish they would just go back to the block numbers, but I liked the stark contrast of the Bumblebee. I would have liked them to bring out the what they call the Batman jersey. And if you don't know what that is, go Google it and see. That would have been nice.
Yeah, and
I've worn one on this show before.
Yes, he has. And Getting Bent with Bo says that he was surprised that that's not an Arthur Moats jersey, Brian, or maybe a Stevenson Sylvester jersey. There's a name for you. How about
I was going to say it was by Patrick Bailey, I believe.
55 has been tossed around a little bit. Last question before we go into either or is, do you believe in our starting safeties this year, referring to Terrell Edmonds and Sean Davis? Dave, go ahead.
I do. I don't think I wouldn't call them the strength of our defense, but that's even a position that some people thought maybe the Steelers would draft high. I did not think that they would draft high because I thought they would have problems getting on the field early, because I think that those two guys are locked into those positions, but I'm not saying that that's definitely like the strength of our defense, if you know what I mean.
All right, Brian.
I like Edmonds more than most people, and like Dave said weeks ago, he led the team in snaps this year. I think Sean Davis is actually a very good player on that team too. I'd like to see him stick around more. I like the safeties.
I do too. I think they'll be okay. Not going to be a dynamic duo in any stretch of the imagination, but I think they'll be just fine. All right, so now let's get to our either or segment to speed things up. I'm just sitting this one out. So, Dave, go ahead.
Yes. Before we start the either or, for people that started late, do we just want to mention the contest one real fast again?
I will tell you to do. I'll tell you what to do. Go back to the beginning and listen. I'm not.
Yes, we announced the stuff with the contest. Go back and listen to it. You're going to have a week to get ready. Don't post anything yet till you get the hashtag next Thursday night. If you don't know what we're talking about because you just joined, make sure you go back and listen.
We're giving away Juju Smith-Schuster jersey. That's all you need to know. So go ahead, Dave. Either or time.
Yes. Here we go. This was actually inspired by something I heard last week on Golick and Wingo, but I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm not going to make them fight each other. If you were going into battle or going into a fight, who would you rather go into battle with? Maximus from Gladiator or King Leonidas from 300?
Ooh, that's a good one. You're talking about some manly movies there. I'm going to go with Schnikes. That's tough. Brian, do you have an answer?
You know, I mean, I go Russell Crowe all the time because of he was great in Mystery Alaska, so you've got to go. You've got to go with Russell Crowe.
Because he said no, because he brought Mystery Alaska.
You won't watch it, but it's a great freaking movie, Jeff.
I'm going to go with King Leonidas at that point because he has a hot wife too. So there you go. We'll go with that one.
So did Brogan Roback, and we saw what happened to him.
Hey, the Frank Webb lives on. Frank Webb lives on.
Okay. I have a confession to make. Every time you said Brogan Roback, I almost thought I heard Brokeback Mountain. So I just got the wrong thing in my head every time that name was brought up. So I'm kind of glad that they've moved on from there. I'm also going to go with King Leonidas. I just think that Dan Levitard actually came on the show and answered the question. He said he can't get over thinking of how Russell Crowe looks now. So that's why he went with that. I mean, both would be fantastic. Both were amazing. Spoiler alert, both of them fought valiantly to the death. But there's just something about King Leonidas, the way he was portrayed there, that he's pretty bad mamma jamma.
Spoiler alert, really? For the movie 300 and Gladiator?
Spoiler alert. The movie's like almost 20 years old. Like next year it's 20. It turns 20.
Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the movie Heat yet. Okay, Brian, go ahead with yours.
Wait a second. Or even worse, I think I gave a spoiler alert for the Princess Bride last week. That would have ruined it for you. But Andre the Giant.
All right, Brian.
My name is Inigo Montoya. Yes. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to disappoint some people. It's not on the edge this week. It's not dirty at all, so I'm sorry. I know I'm letting a lot of people down because I'm going clean this week. But so 2 major shows are going off the air. One just probably about an hour ago had its last episode, and one on Sunday night will end its historic run as well. Jeff, you might have never heard of either of these shows, so this is probably more for Dave, but I'm going to throw out, what do you think is the most iconic show going off the air this week? Is it The Big Bang Theory after 12 seasons, or is it after 8 seasons, Game of Thrones?
I don't watch Game of Thrones because I don't even have HBO, so I have no idea what, like, I know the premise of the show. I know it has a ridiculous following, but I think because it's on HBO, there are still people like me that have never seen it because of that. And I think because the Big Bang Theory is on a Prime, everyone gets CBS. I'm going to say the Big Bang Theory is on longer. It's a comedy. Not everyone's into dragons and stuff like that. I'll say the Big Bang Theory. Dave, what about you?
I'm going personally for me, it's Big Bang Theory. I've seen every episode. And I don't one of those people that go out and announce that I've never seen Game of Thrones, but I haven't because the same reason as Jeff. I don't get HBO, and I have lots of other stuff that I watch otherwise. I think culturally, from everything that I understand, that I would say as a society, the answer would be Game of Thrones. But for me personally, it's for Big Bang.
Yeah. What about you, Dave? I'm sorry, Bryan.
So, you know what? It took me probably about 8 or 9 years to watch Big Bang Theory, because watching all those Steeler games on CBS, I watched the promos and I'm like, this show looks stupid. It's about a bunch of nerds. I don't want to watch this show whatsoever. Then I started watching it and I fell in love with it. And in our house, we watch it almost every night. In fact, gosh, my parents have compared my 11-year-old to Sheldon, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I absolutely love the show. Game of Thrones, I don't have HBO. However, I borrowed a buddy's password, and the last month it's been nothing but binge watching. So I am finally caught up. Just yesterday, caught up to Game of Thrones, and I thought it was so iconic. But I think when we look back in about 20 years from now, people are going to be thinking about Big Bang Theory the way they still think about Friends. I'm not as iconic as Seinfeld, but they're going to think about it as one of the great comedies. So I'm going to go Big Bang Theory.
All right, very good. So guys, great show. Thought it was a good show, very tight. We got through a lot of stuff. If you're a Steeler fan, I got to think you like this episode. So at this point in time is where we always say that if you don't know we have a YouTube channel, make sure you follow us on YouTube. Search BTSC Steelers Radio. Also on our audio platforms, anywhere you find your podcast, you can search Steelers or Behind the Steel Curtain, and you will find us. All we do is we ask that you share the show, talk with people. If you know someone that loves podcasts and are a Steeler fan, tell them about our show. So as Lance always says, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Steelers Preview.